Welcome everyone to our International Women's Day panel discussion on the digital railways, entitled Strengthening the Railway Through Data, Safety and Cybersecurity. In the next 15 minutes or so, we will hear from three leading engineers who are responsible for rolling stock, operations and design. But first, some introductions. Steph, Clecker, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, thanks, Emma. I'm Steph Clecker. I'm Head of Digital Services at Porterbrook. Porterbrook's a rail leasing company, and we own over a quarter of all the passenger rolling stock in the UK. I've actually got a background in engineering in metallurgy, so not truly digital through and through. And I've been in engineering for about 20 years. I've been in rail for 15. I started life actually in aerospace. And really over the last 15 years, I've been focusing on remote condition monitoring systems and how you put digital systems and practice really into kind of true activity within TOCs and network rail.
Brilliant, thank you. Lucia, Capogna, introduction from you, please.
Hi, Emma. I'm Lucia Capogna, the Head of Software and Cybersecurity at AEGIS Certification Services. AEGIS is a company that supports the railway industry, providing railway consultancy and certification services. In the last 15 years, I worked across several industries, including railways, defense, oil and gas, and renewable energy. And I'm an active member of multiple Helenek standardization groups that support cybersecurity software and safety standards.
And Betty Helienek, would you like to introduce yourself?
Thank you, Emma. I'm Betty Helenek. I'm the cybersecurity capability lead for intelligent transport systems within WSP in engineering consultancy and technical advisory. I started my career more than 25 years ago in the railway industry, and I was in the front row of several technological firsts in the railway sector, including cybersecurity. And that also helped me to expand a bit more into other industries like road, oil and gas. And I have served on the UK Cybersecurity Advisory Board, and I'm also currently in the technical committee for an industrial IoT standard. Okay.
Brilliant, thank you very much, Betty. So those are our three speakers, Lucia, Betty and Steph. Shouldn't forget to introduce myself. I'm Dr. Emma Taylor, Head of Digital Safety at RazorSecure, with more than 30 years engineering experience across space, oil and gas energy, and now transportation, rail safety and rail cybersecurity. Like Lucia and Betty and Steph, I've worked with data, and I've also done a lot of work with standards, and I'm very much looking forward to hosting our discussion today. So to the first of our three questions. So we all work in a sector which has been around for a very long time, most definitely predating the internet. But the railway is evolving rapidly, and we're looking at greater efficiencies and improvements to reflect the changing society and economy around us. So question for all three of you, what are the most interesting recent or ongoing developments you see happening around you? And what's their impact and benefit? What about the changes and vulnerabilities too? So Steph, first to you for answering the question.
Happy to pick that one up. I think, in the capacity of Porterbrook and looking at rolling stock, actually one of the things that's emerging with the industry is the importance of viewing rail as a system. So connecting track and train, and digital and data is actually a brilliant way to do that. So we're doing a lot of work looking at data we can get off our rolling stock and whether or not that can actually be put into practice with network rail, perhaps to do track management or track maintenance in a slightly different way. I think that approach of using data enables prognostics, which enables the supply chain and the experts to actually understand things that are going wrong before they've actually gone wrong. So I think this whole digital theme around prognostics and kind of forecasting might enable the devolution of risk away from just, say, the TOC and network rail, and actually to the wider digital and hardware supply chain.
Brilliant, thank you. So Lucia, over to you. What interesting recent or ongoing developments do you see happening around you, and impact and benefit, and challenges and vulnerabilities too?
What I noted in the last 10 years or more is that the systems are becoming more and more sophisticated, and that new technology is introduced and developed every day. So the software and in general, the digitalization of the new railway technology are providing more flexible and more costly, affordable solutions. However, they have a price. So they introduce new weaknesses in a well-consolidated system. And the real challenge is today to keep them under control, the risk linked to those weaknesses under control, to avoid that external attacks could affect the operations and the safety of the systems.
Thank you very much. Last but not least, Betty, what are your views on interesting recent or ongoing developments, their impact and benefit, and challenges and vulnerabilities?
Well, I think we see now in the railway industry another technological phase that is happening, and similar to when we were first confronted with connectivity, with digital, with COTS components. We need to adapt and see how the architecture really of our railway system and system of systems and all the subsequent components are changing. With that, of course, changes not just the responsibility, the connections in between. It introduces a certain uncertainty, what to do with it. Do we capture it all with standardization, or do we leave it as open as or adaptable as possible? And both, of course, has its perks in terms of really good, effective values that it brings to the railway as a whole, but also introduces holes that we might not see, introduces vulnerabilities, specifically from the cyber side.
Thank you very much. I mean, it's clear that like the architecture of the railway systems is changing, and this is giving opportunities for flexibility and reduction of cost. But there is a challenge I'm hearing in controlling these additional sort of weaknesses that are being brought through as we look at railway as a connected system. But as Steph pointed out as well, there are benefits with this greater integration because it gives us the opportunity to understand and monitor how things are going wrong ahead of time. So on balance, we've definitely got impacts and benefits from these ongoing developments, but also challenges and vulnerabilities. So it's a very interesting and timely snapshot as to where we are now and a fascinating view of the emerging benefits. I'm going to use the panel chair's privilege to explore a bit these common themes around digitalization, and in particular the importance of management of data, because data clearly is a valuable asset and is used as great potential. But how do we design and run our railways to protect their integrity and availability? How do you see the situation right now, and what are your recommendations for what we need to do more of? And I think this time I'm going to pass it to Betty to answer the question first.
Well, the first thing is how to design for more integrity and availability is acknowledge each responsibility in the system as part of a system and as our responsibility overall to the companies, to the businesses, to the infrastructure, to the people actually using the services, the railway passengers. And another question is also the difficult question is the design really of the railway system, which now has to deal also in the digital world with a very different life cycle of new threats, of new vulnerabilities, compared to the asset life cycle and the safety life cycle. So, and these two timelines naturally don't fit. So what we need is actually a very different methodologies of how we actually design and develop things and put them into a system for a long, long time.
Very interesting, thank you. To you, Steph, the question about how do we design and run our railways, and where you see the situation and where do you think we need to do more?
Yeah, I mean, I think, Betty, you've raised some brilliant points around the kind of security elements and the technical design. There's also this kind of rules of engagement design, which fosters trust. Data sharing is something that I have a challenge with a lot with our customers and our supply chain. And it's getting people comfortable that, digital systems and data can be shared and collaborated cross-organizationally, and that it's going to be used for the right purpose, and people are going to act responsibly with that data. So I think there's a balance of governance as well. Some of these solutions are relatively cheap and cheerful. They may never get any light of day if there's so much overhead surrounding actually mobilizing them. So there's a thing around trust, but also balance, making sure that governance and security practices are in place, but they're not a blocker to entry for innovation.
That's brilliant. So Lucia, to you, how do we design and run our railways to protect their integrity and availability? And how do you see the situation right now? And what recommendations and suggestions have you got?
I honestly think that around the railways, there are many companies that are trying to introduce security solutions. However, they are progressing with different speed, with different knowledge and maturity around this discipline. What we should do is to adopt a top-down approach where standards and independent assessment are possibly enforced from the top up to the down, to put everyone on the same page. We need a common solution around this discipline. We need a coordinated approach around the industry to make sure that actually the guidelines, the standards adopted and developed around the railways are correctly understood and implemented to support both safety and security. So they are the two faces of the same coin. We need to find a way to work together to make those two disciplines work together.
Thank you so much. I mean, I'm hearing from all three of you that it's important that we work together, that we acknowledge our responsibilities. We need to strike the right balance, particularly as we're trying to weave together these different technical topics, these different timescales. Cybersecurity threats change on a daily, if not hourly basis, but the life cycle of a project can be measured in order of decades. So important we strike the right balance, and we use safety and that certification to help harmonize what people are doing to bring everyone to the same place. We certainly need to be on the same page, that's clear. Now, the time's running out, but we have got time for one more question. We've been through a period of unexpected change over the past 2-3 years, and I think we could be fairly certain there's more uncertainty coming our way over the next sort of weeks, months, and years too. Given the importance to our society and economy of railways as part of our integrated transport network, what are your priorities? What key messages for action would you like to send to our listeners? Lucia, over to you.
Thank you, Emma. Yeah, what I would like to say is that trains and infrastructure are essentially two different systems, very complex systems that need to communicate and exchange info. Keeping secure these systems and the communication between them will support the protection of data, as well as will support also the safety of those systems. They will support the protection of confidentiality, availability, and integrity of the data, and indirectly also the safety due to that. I strongly believe that if a good security strategy is in place, this should be supported by the standards, as I mentioned before, then the cybersecurity will really help protecting the railway. It will protect the staff, the personnel in general, the passengers, and the other assets, as well as the organization involved with it.
That's great, thank you. Betty, over to you. So railways are important for us. What are your priorities? What key messages for action would you like to send to our listeners?
Well, first of all, I would like to say to everyone who's listening to this, in your railway organizations, please also listen to your cybersecurity experts. We are not here to bother you. We are here to protect you. We're the good guys. We try to, all that you are building and all that you are providing for the society, to protect it from harm so it can actually function as designed, be available, and protect really also your business, your profit, your revenues at the end of the day. And we see that the functioning railway is really extremely important to the well-being of a country, of a nation. That's why it is called critical national infrastructure. And all that cybersecurity experts are doing is protected really on a daily basis. So do that. Don't ignore it away. But ignoring it doesn't get better.
Thanks so much. And Steph, over to you. Railways are important for us. What are your priorities? What key messages for action would you like to send to our listeners?
Yeah, I guess, I mean, in my role of head of digital, actually, one of the really important things is to get tangible results, you know, and I think one of the best ways to do that actually is to start small. I have a lot of projects where people are overwhelmed at the start because they're trying to boil the ocean, and really, I guess my urge to everyone would be start with something small and then look to roll that out. We need such a coordinated and well-considered approach initially to get something to be really successful, and once you've established that, then it's much easier to scale it out rather than trying to start for something huge right from the beginning. Rail's at a point where we really need a step change in our approach to digital and kind of data and how we get this to actually be something that's part of everyone's business as usual. And I think really like starting small but thinking big is the way we should be going.
That's absolutely brilliant. I mean, like in this last sort of run through, I've heard so much about how the railway is made up of complex systems, but you can have a good strategy overall. You can use our overall network as an umbrella to protect everyone, and that like safety and cybersecurity are there to help, not just to make your life difficult. If we all work together, we can actually ensure a safer and more reliable and resilient railway. So we're almost at the end now, and I'm just going to do like one quick run through. Does everyone have any one-liner, one sentence, last thoughts that would like to put in front of people? Something you think we've not covered? Betty, I'm going to pick on you first.
A one-liner. Really, the important thing is to deal with the issues of today, with the risks. Don't hide away from them. It usually doesn't get better with time if you ignore things. So yeah, deal with it. And I think also what Steph mentioned before, deal with it maybe on a small scale. Start small, have something tangible, and then you will immediately see how it will improve.
Brilliant. Try it out. Start small and scale up. Lucia, one last one-liner or one paragraph, a key message or something you'd like to point out?
I would like just to say to everyone that is listening that security is not just a cost, it's a great benefit too. So you will find long-term a great benefit in applying security strategy and methodology.
Thank you so much. And Steph, any last thoughts for us?
Yeah, I guess, I mean, you know, if you listen to kind of all the messaging, etc., that we're hearing around rail at the moment, it's obvious there's loads of focus and momentum in this area. So I guess my kind of closing point would be, now's the time to capitalize on it. Come on, you know, let's actually do it. Let's not just talk about it.
That's brilliant. Well, that's on that note, really, I'd like the opportunity to kind of seize the day and sort of close out here. I'd just like to thank our speakers. So that's Betty Helienek from WSP, Steph Clecker from Porterbrook, and Lucia Capogna from AEGIS, and I'm Emma Taylor from RazorSecure. Thank you to RazorSecure for hosting this webinar in support of International Women's Day. And thank you also to RIA, the UK's Rail Industry Association, for your support. You've been listening to Digital Conversations, Strengthening the Railway Through Data, Safety and Cybersecurity. Thank you very much for your attention, and look forward to hearing back from you in future conversations.